Please welcome to the stage, Nimita Dave.
So far in my life, the day I was most nervous was when I sat across from Dr. David Flockhart for an interview for a fellowship in his group. Now, I'd been following Dr. Flockhart's work for years, and to work with him and submit my first grant and set up my own lab was my absolute dream. And there, I was super nervous, and Dr. Flockhart's first question, so tell me about yourself. And I started blabbering about all the lab techniques I knew, the science, and he just laughed and said, no, tell me about yourself. Where are you from? Where did you grow up? What do you do besides all that science? I was like, wow, this famous scientist, the Carl Sagan of pharmacogenomics and personalized medicine, has the time to sit here and listen to where I came from and what are my hobbies? Well, the stars were aligned, and I did get the fellowship. On my first day at IU as a fellow, I found out that Dr. Flockhart was on a medical leave. He had underwent a surgery to remove a tumor and was in rehab. The diagnosis didn't look good. He had glioblastoma multiforme, or GBM, the most aggressive type of brain cancer. The median survival for this cancer, GBM, is about 14 months. The treatment options include surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy, where the therapy has been just temozolomide for almost last 2 decades. There are no new targeted or any therapy options, and there is no cure. How did I know all this? My PhD dissertation title was Brain Tumor Pharmacokinetics of Letrozole. I studied GBM for over 5 years. A few weeks later, Dave was back from his medical leave, and I was supposed to meet him. I wasn't sure how this conversation was going to go. But as soon as I walked into his office, he just came over, gave me a hug, and said, "Welcome to the IU Clin Pharm family." And then, with a lot of excitement, he went on to tell me about his self-diagnosis, his surgery where he laid awake and the surgeon removed the tumor with the aid of functional MRI, and about his ongoing radiation therapy. I was surprised to see all that excitement about it. And I clearly remember what he told me that day. He said, "Nimita, science is making amazing progress, but in taking those big jumps, we miss out on small and critical details. And scientists like you and I need to work on those gaps and make it better for the patients." A very unexpected, unique journey started for me that day. I accompanied Dave to many of his doctor's appointments, and my husband and I used to have weekly dinners with him where I would find a new restaurant for us to try. He was back to work and also started seeing his patients. So I started hoping maybe he's going to be an outlier. Maybe he's going to outlive that median survival and be around till I submit my grant and become a faculty. A few months later, Dave had to be hospitalized due to severe cognitive impairment. And we all knew what this meant. The damn GBM was back. But Dave was more prepared for it than any of us. He and I had already done research on the ongoing clinical trials and had shortlisted the trials that we would consider whenever the tumor comes back. So we sent out his scans, his biopsy sample from the first surgery, and finally Dave was able to get enrolled in one clinical trial at University of Chicago, but in the basket arm. Now, if you all don't know what basket arm is, it's basically the arm of a clinical trial in which patients with cancers who have exhausted any other options get enrolled, even if their cancer may not be the target for the treatment being tried. I drove Dave every Thursday to University of Chicago for the treatment. And during those long drives, we got to know each other even more. He told me about his childhood stories from Scotland, about his kids, and just about his serendipity movements in his career. And I told him about where I come from, my ongoing research projects, and he guided me on these trips, what I should do for that first grant. Yes, I was working on GBM research and was going to submit like, a grant based on GBM research. I did want to find a cure for GBM. One of the things about those, if you have ever been in India and are driving to Chicago, those are really boring drives on I-65 with nothing but cornfields. But Dave, he still got excited there. He would look at those windmills and say, you know, every week I feel like these number of windmills keep going up. Science is just making amazing progress. The world looks great. I wish I could live 150 years to witness this. At times like that, I used to get frustrated, angry with life as to why this amazing scientist with such a great zest for life has this terrible cancer. Why, in spite of having made so much progress in medical sciences, we still have no options for glioblastoma. I felt like my years in grad school were a complete waste. But Dave, he never showed any anger. He just lived every single day to the fullest. During one of those drives, one day, he was even more excited than usual. And he said, well, I am receiving the prestigious Leon Goldberg Award in pharmacology in a few months. And that's going to be at University of Chicago. I said, excellent, great news. I'm going to drive you there for that too. And then he added, well, if I'm not able to speak there, will you please give the talk on my behalf? Dave knew exactly where his tumor was. He knew he would lose his speech before any other functions. There was no way I could say no to that. So over the next few months, he prepared me to give that talk, and I just kept hoping that I hope we don't have to do this. I hope I just drive him there and he gives the talk. Unfortunately, over the next few months, he was hospitalized several times, and we almost thought we might have to cancel this trip or might have to go on my own. Somehow he made it. Somehow he, his nurse, and I drove to Chicago for that last lecture, where I gave the talk and Dave sat in the front row with that brilliant smile. And after the talk, just kept and patted my back. After this trip, the tumor was really progressing aggressively, and it was time to get him into hospice care. I remember the day I had to tell Dave that there were no more options left. I just couldn't look into his eyes, and I felt like I failed him. That was the only day I saw tears roll down his face. A few weeks later, Dave passed away on Thanksgiving Day, just minutes before the turkey came out of the oven. And that's so typical of Dave. He loved celebrations. Whenever somebody got a grant or a publication approved, he would pop a bottle of champagne in his office to celebrate with all of us. And since this time he wouldn't be able to take part in in eating turkey and enjoying with the family, he decided to leave just before that. I was an emotional mess. I'm really grateful for my friends, my husband, but most importantly, the Flockhart family, who just opened up their doors and hearts and let me be part of that flock. And they were so kind enough to give me that Goldberg Award, which hangs on my desk and reminds me of all the life lessons I've learned from Dave. I did submit the grant, which didn't get funded. And that's when I joined the pharma company AbbVie in Chicago as a clinical pharmacologist. Over time, I just started accepting this plan B in life. My husband and I decided to settle down in Chicago and bought our first house. While we were still just settling down, unpacking, I got a call from a recruiter who told me about Blueprint Medicines in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I had absolutely no idea. I'd looked them up. They work on rare diseases and cancers. I decided, well, I'll just go check them out. But when I came for my interview here, I texted my husband in the middle of the day, we are moving to Boston. And he replied, LOL. While it was really tough to convince him to move here we are. And I'm so excited to be part of this Blue Crew, where I think all of us believe in what Dave always used to say, science matters, outliers matters, and above all, people matter. Thank you.